It's been more than a month, and our country is still on lockdown following shelter-at-home orders. And as the workforce continues to file for unemployment and the Paycheck Protection Program ran out of its initial wave of resources, just last night, Congress approved another $300 billion in PPP support. Who exactly receives these funds is perhaps a conversation for another time. When can we expect to restart our economy? What will it take for consumer confidence to be restored? What sectors of retail will begin to ramp up first? Those questions and much more with our special guests, Joey Agri of Agri Realty Corporation, Don Barnes of Belle Tire, and Matthew Sharrak of Midwest Mobility Solutions. We'll also take a look at how commercial real estate brokers are navigating the deal flow in their pipeline with Stephen Silverman of Friedman Real Estate. We're obviously leveraging technology this morning and trying to provide an optimistic view and, more importantly, a community. So if you have any questions, feel free to add them into the chat box, and I'll do my very best to reach them all. It's Wednesday, April 22nd, 2020. I'm Derek Dickow, and welcome to Impact. Before we start, on a personal note, one of my family members was on a ventilator for 4 days, and by the graces of God, he's back home and expecting to make a full recovery. So we're sensitive to how severe and serious this virus truly is. And for those of you that have had any family or friends perish during this crisis, our thoughts and prayers are with you. We will have to get the economy restarted again. We're currently living in unprecedented times as we see our country's economy and the world's, for that matter, come to a screeching halt. Retail numbers across the board have been decimated, along with the severe economic destruction. We will hear more and more of companies filing for bankruptcy. Just how long can some of these companies hang in? Let's bring in our first guest, Joey Agri. Since 2013, he's been the president and chief executive officer of Agri Realty Corporation, a real estate investment trust located in Bloomfield Hills with more than 850 properties in 46 states. For insights and leaderships, Joey, let's start here. Welcome to Impact.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Good morning. Most retail businesses are getting crushed during the crisis, but some are actually doing better. What areas are doing well and why?
I think we're seeing a couple things here. We're seeing a surge, obviously, in grocery demand. We're seeing a surge in terms of consumers stocking up on essentials in a fear, frankly, of a shortage. So that's really the retail space that we see seeing near-term activity due to COVID-19. I think the longer-term impacts, the longer-term consumer behaviors are probably more important here, given the surge nature, and then what post-COVID normalization looks like for all retailers. But obviously the Walmarts, the Krogers of the world, the Aldis of the world, obviously the Amazons, e-commerce grocery delivery has surged, pickup orders have surged, but discretionary consumer spending is effectively ground to a halt.
When do you expect that will return to some sense of normalcy?
Well, that is the $1 trillion question. Usually we say billion. That's the $1 trillion question. A lot of this resorts down to the governors. Obviously, the federal government has left it to the states on when to reopen, how to reopen. I think what retailers are saying today is even when they do reopen, subject to governmental and municipal constraints, what is that activity, reopening activity, going to look like? And so I was on a call this morning with a national retailer who specifically said, even when we anticipate reopening our stores potentially in May, we're still looking at a ramp-up period potentially of 50% for the first 3 months. You know, the second level impact there is the existing inventory that retailers, especially who carry seasonal inventory, apparel, accessories, and home merchandise, will have on their shelves, frankly, in inventory. And so you'll see a major inventory clearance. There's some great sales out there, for great bargains out there for consumers. But this is going to be staged. It is going to be sequenced. It is going to be awkward. And frankly, it's going to be different by every state in the country, most likely, unless some of these governors work regionally as they are attempting to reopen.
We're seeing Governor Whitmer make an attempt with other governors here in the Midwest to have a regional opening. Would you favor perhaps certain parts of the state being restricted more so than others? Do you think that would help reboot our economy here in Michigan?
Look, my personal opinion on all of this, whether it's Michigan or any other state, is that I would default to the scientists and the doctors here, right? I think this is a medical crisis first. It is a global pandemic. We obviously have hotspots here in Michigan as well as across the country. I think most importantly, we have to default to the data and to the scientists here. We will not recover financially until we recover this from a health crisis perspective. So to me, I think we have to follow that data. We all know that this virus knows no borders. It knows no national borders. It knows no international borders, state, county level. And so I think it's going to have to be a nimble response. It's going to have to be a dynamic response. And most importantly, it's going to have to be the right response given what we know to date. And we're learning more and more every day about this virus and what we're going to continue to learn given the data that's coming in.
Yeah, that's a good point. I want to ask, have you seen any examples in retail where companies have been quick to pivot during the crisis, and how has that helped them sort of position themselves for a post-COVID recovery?
So two-part answer. It's a great question. Two-part answer. There's a lot of companies, or retailers specifically, obviously that's our expertise here. A lot of retailers that have effectively been able to position themselves to be able to survive and thrive in this pandemic. Those retailers had an omni-channel e-commerce platform already in place. If you attempt to, as a retailer, put an e-commerce platform or a pickup or delivery in place today, given the logistics constraints and frankly, labor constraints that we already have during a pandemic, that is very difficult, if not impossible. And we've seen very few successes. That said, there are retailers such as I'll go to Best Buy or Walmart who had a pickup in-store delivery options already available, the logistical networks in place to do it, the staffing and the systems to execute on it, who have been very successful in doing so. And so there are industries that have been successful. There are retailers specifically that have been successful, but they made the investments and the strategic planning years ahead of time, knowing that we were migrating to an omni-channel world and that they had to change their business to be successful in that omni-channel world. What this pandemic has done is it has exponentially increased the rate at which they had to migrate those sales to different channels other than traditional brick and mortar.
You've positioned the company exceptionally well to take advantage of opportunities like this. I want to ask a question that came in from Sam Dickow. What investment strategies are you applying to the portfolio today, and how are you looking to move forward under your leadership at Agree?
Yeah, so I would tell you first, we've raised $1 billion almost in equity in the last 6 months. We have built effectively a war chest at Agree Realty to continue to execute really on our traditional investment strategy, and that's to invest in the best and most capitalized retailers that would thrive again in that omni-channel world. So our investment strategy historically has been recession-resistant retailers, but also non-luxury retailers. And so discretionary consumer spending for us has been something that we have tried to avoid. Our focus is on the best retailers in this country. As we announced on Monday morning, Walmart is the top tenant in this company's portfolio today at 6.3% of total rents. We acquired 6 Walmart supercenters in the first quarter. We continue to work with partners such as Walmart, such as AutoZone, O'Reilly, TJ Maxx, Best Buy, and the leading operators in the country to execute on our investment strategy, where we just raised our investment guidance for the year to $700 to $800 million Monday morning.
Yeah, it was a great article in Crain's yesterday, which featured you. So congratulations on all your successes and how you've positioned the company. I do want to ask, for those that are listening right now that are in retail investment sales or looking to become a developer in their own right, what can they do to help position them during the crisis?
Well, if you're looking to become a developer, I would tell you to stop looking, frankly. I think retail development and commercial development in this country, frankly, unless they're essential projects, we're going to see a long, hard road and a sequenced recovery in this country with a multi-year, potentially recession on the horizon. And so we are going from the longest economic expansion effectively in this country's history, in contemporary U.S. history, to effectively a grinding halt. There will be no V-shaped recovery. I don't anticipate a U-shaped recovery. This is going to look more like an L. And so net new development, especially in retail in this country where we're already overstored with 24 square feet per capita, already had challenges and already, frankly, took on too much alpha, or what we call, obviously risk. And so net new development is a business that I would tell you will not be successful, most likely, except in the extraordinary circumstances in the future. What I think is most important is for everybody in the real estate industry to think about what the new normal, what the new paradigm looks like once we emerge from this pandemic. And it will not be stronger than ever in the near term or medium term, like the president has referenced in his many news conferences. It will be very different. Consumer behavior will shift. Consumer shopping patterns will shift. Consumer preferences will shift. I'm not sure if I want to bring my children to a Chuck E. Cheese ever again. I've had 2 birthday parties for them where I've never seen them actually cleaning the games that my 7- and 8-year-old boys are touching constantly with hundreds of other children. And so I think you have to think through what the new normal looks like in this country. Another example is we sold 17 million new cars in this country last year alone. My over-under is somewhere in the mid-single digits on an annualized basis of 4.1 from 4.1 of 2010. So start 2020, excuse me. So what does that mean? That means cars are going to be on the road longer. You're going to have Don Barnes on talking about that. So tire sales, auto parts, tire and auto service. We're already approaching 12 years, which is a record for average duration of cars on the road. We will surpass 13 years for average duration. And so I challenge everybody in retail real estate to think about what that new normal, what that new paradigm looks like in a recessionary and a contracting economy, and in an economy that looks very different with different consumer behaviors and preferences than we've ever seen in our lifetime.
And I think that the new normal continues to be defined on a daily basis, so it will be a long-term recovery. I do want to transition before we let you go here. Just a couple questions about leadership. You've been the CEO of Agree Realty since 2013, a publicly traded firm. Obviously, you've done an exceptional job growing the company from $300 million to close to $4 billion market cap. How are you demonstrating leadership to your team during the crisis? I mean, usually your office is fantastic. It's got a great environment. Talk about corporate culture a little bit, and what are you doing on the daily to communicate with your team and to instill some confidence in them?
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. We obviously opened our new building just a few months ago, which you mentioned. We built this fantastic campus for our team members to enjoy, which we think is very additive to our culture. Today there's 3 team members, obviously, given the nature of the restrictions on travel and working in both buildings combined. It's a real challenge. What I go back to as a leader always is back to our core values and what we call our rules for victory here at Agree Realty. And so we have to be there to support our team members. We have to be flexible. We have parents that are stay-at-home parents. We're never stay-at-home parents that are now stay-at-home parents homeschooling their children, afraid to go to the grocery store, trying to get their work done as well. And so what the team here at Agree Realty has accomplished, closing a quarter for a publicly traded company in a pandemic, launching 2 equity offerings in the span of 3 weeks is a remarkable accomplishment. I'll tell you, we've transformed our auditorium into a grocery store. We are there to support our team members in any way possible, understanding that flexibility today is paramount. This is uncharted waters. So I would suggest to everybody, go back to your core values, go back to your greatest assets. That isn't for us, the 870 properties we own. It's our people. And right now we have to be there to support them. We have to be flexible, and we have to be very nimble in this type of environment.
Well, certainly appreciate your time and words of wisdom and for taking time to be with us today. I want to just tell you to stay healthy, stay safe, and hang in. We'll get through this together.
Thank you to you all as well. I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be right back.
As AT&T's #1 partner, MMS prides itself on delivering a world-class experience to our clients and our communities to keep them connected where they live, work, and play. During these challenging times, we are here to serve you. We have many options to keep you connected to your loved ones by offering non-contact transactions and curbside service. Also, because we care about our healthcare professionals, we are offering 3 months of free service to doctors and nurses. Visit mmsmobile.com/stores to find an open location near you and call ahead to set up a curbside appointment.
Our next guest is Don Barnes. Don has been the president of Belle Tire, which is a family-run business for more than 95 years. It's based in Michigan, Ohio, and Indiana. He's been president now since 2014, and the company has grown tremendously under his leadership to to more than 120 units with more than 2,500 full-time employees. Don, welcome to Impact.
Hi, Derek. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Don. Appreciate you taking time. What was your initial reaction as a company on March 13th, and what did you do to prepare your company for these unprecedented times?
Yeah, that's, March 13th feels like an eternity ago, unfortunately. But, coincidentally, March 13th was also Friday the 13th. So really what we did is we could see that, as the economy was coming to, a crippling halt, we knew that our business was going to suffer from that. Thankfully, Belle Tire is considered an essential business, so we've been open during this pandemic. Really, the focus was, okay, if business is going to slow down, and as the state of Michigan, as well as Indiana, Ohio, start to get hit with more COVID-19 cases, what can we do to ensure that, one, we're able to kind of stay open to support the customers that need our services. We look at what we do, and really our job is to give our neighbors. So we don't look at the customers coming in as just customers. These are our neighbors, and our job is to give our neighbors peace of mind and trust that will get them back on the road fast and affordably. So during these unprecedented times, the last thing anyone wants to think about is any type of issue they're having with their car, let alone a flat tire. So just to kind of echo what Joey was saying is, our focus was really focusing on truly what our job is, and our core values in order to make sure we can get our neighbors back on the road fast and affordably, but more importantly, make sure that we're able to create a safe work environment for our employees that are having to work the front lines, as well as create a safe environment for our customers that want to come in and feel safe in order to do business with Belle Tire.
Don, you mentioned that yours is an essential services business. I'm just curious, how have you managed zero layoffs and you haven't furloughed anybody? How have you managed to maintain optimism throughout the crisis?
Yeah, that's a great question, Derek. I do want to echo that. We've been very fortunate, even though our business has come to a screeching halt. I mean, at one point our business was down 60%, kind of day over day. We've been able to claw that back and kind of get up to where we're only down 25% on a day over day basis, which is great. But what we've been able to do is we've been able to not have to focus on any type of layoffs, any type of furloughs, and really just focusing on the team. The whole idea is making sure that, how can we, shuffle people around from store to store if they need help? How can we make sure that we're able to give as many hours as we can to people that need them? Our big thing is if we want to protect, our employees, and like Joey said, our greatest asset, all companies say our greatest assets are our people, our greatest assets are people. Well, it's really not until there's any type of crisis. Who would have thought a global pandemic would really kind of test entities and how well they live to their core value? But we've always said and believed and acted that our greatest asset is our people. And the whole idea is that we want to make sure that our greatest asset has a job, has an income coming in, but also most importantly is that all of their benefits, all of their healthcare benefits are able to keep, because that's when they're going to need the benefits the most. And we're doing everything we can to be flexible, be nimble, to accommodate different team members that have maybe pre-existing conditions, that have childcare issues, that need some sort of accommodation. And we've been doing everything we can to accommodate those people, because we do want to make sure that we're able to continue on and support our people, but still be able to operate our business and support the customers that are coming in.
You talk about being a people-first company, and you guys have a fantastic corporate culture. How are you communicating confidence to your 2,500 team members on a daily basis? What are you doing? What are you implementing? And what's helped service you and the company during the crisis? I mean, how are you communicating with them?
So so what I'm doing is, we got 121 locations spread out over 3 states. So just doing that, we don't have the luxury of having, a big campus where all of our employees are in, where we can have kind of a giant, all company meeting or town hall. So what I've been doing is about every other day or so, I've been sending out different video message to the, all employees, giving kind of state of the companies, what's been going on this week, what's the plan for this week, what has the leadership team been doing, kind of behind the scenes that not everyone's going to see, to make sure that Belle Tire continues to thrive. Belle Tire continues to put ourselves in a financial position to be healthy, to kind of develop some sort of cash war chest to weather this storm. We don't know how long this is going to go. We have the stay-at-home in place through the end of this month. May or may not be extended. We don't know what the new norm is going to be like. So that level of uncertainty is very scary and creates a lot of anxiety for people. So being able to send out video recordings about state of the business, what's going on, what our outlook is, what we're seeing, what the business is seeing, but even as simple as sending a YouTube video out on how to make a homemade mask, right? So, we have masks for all of our team. We have disposable masks, gloves, all types of PPE. But at the same time, there are times where there's a shortage of masks and people want to wear bandanas, people want to wear scarves. But at the same time, how do I go about constructing one? So it's as simple as even creating a YouTube video on, hey team, this is how we make a kind of a no-sew homemade mask that we could wear in order to make sure that we're practicing social distancing measures and protecting ourselves, but also protecting our customers.
So you're using Zoom and technology, leveraging those assets.
Yeah, I mean, Zoom, I probably am on doing 3, 4, 5, 6 Zoom calls a day. It's great. The technology's been great, but it's also been a great medium for all of us to be able to kind of get in front of all of the teams that we have, because in the absence of real face-to-face, this is the next best thing. And you're able to really understand, the different mannerisms, the tones, the context of things, where stuff doesn't get lost on conference calls and emails, text messages, things like that.
Let's talk about how you're interfacing with your customers, being that you're an essential business and the new norm has, again, it's being redefined, every single day. What have you done internally as a customer? If I come into a Belle Tire store, what can I expect in terms of protocols, and what policies have you guys adapted, and how is it best serving the customer?
Yeah, thanks, Derek. There's a couple new ways in which people can kind of do business with Belle Tire now. Having had to go out and shop, whether it be for groceries, it does create a lot of anxiety. You can take all of the necessary protocols. You can wear your mask, you can wear your gloves, you can, wash your hands, disinfect, but still, anybody can get this anytime. And so what we've done is we've really tried to accommodate the different levels of anxiety maybe different customers will have. So, we are now offering completely touchless operations where customers can stay in their vehicle. We'll come outside to the parking lot. We'll have a discussion with them, on discovering their needs and wants and kind of what brings them in today. While they're sitting in the safety of their vehicle, we're talking through them with their window to where then they can drive the vehicle in the bay while we cautiously guide them in, work on their vehicle while the vehicle's, lifted just minimally off the air. So the customer never has to get out. We can take payment via the phone. We can take payment soon to be online, but really quickly changing, being agile and nimble into our normal operations to be able to accommodate new customer requests. We've pulled waiting room chairs out. We've had, different social distancing stickers on the ground that have made up in order to protect, again, the safety and well-being of our customers, but also safety and well-being of our employees. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens when the stay-at-home's lifted and how the level and what the level of comfort is with consumers and wanting to shop. I do agree with Joey that it is going to take a slower ramp, but with that said, being an essential business, what we've seen is actually an uptick in business over the last week, be it because of stimulus checks, tax refunds, boredom, who knows, maybe all of the above. But we kind of saw this about a decade ago when, we went through kind of the last big financial crisis and recession. It's different, but very similar in terms of what we're experiencing in terms of, a sharp decline in our business, but a slow, gradual ramp up. And shortly after that, we did see, a few years of really successful business as people started to buy fewer and fewer cars and wanting to invest in the vehicles they had. So really what we're focusing is how can we be, as operationally efficient as we can. We want to carve out as much waste as we can, but most importantly, how can we accommodate the customer to how they want to shop with us rather than trying to force them to shop with us the way that we've always done business.
I'd like to transition now to a more personal question. You're a father, you have a family, 2 young daughters at home. When do you expect to have some confidence that the economy will be somewhat restored and taking your family out to dinner or to Chuck E. Cheese's, like Joey mentioned earlier?
Yeah.
I mean, how do you foresee that
funny.
happening?
Joey brought up Chuck E. Cheese's. We had, Chuck E. Cheese birthday party for my oldest daughter a couple months ago. When's the next time if you feel comfortable going to Chuck E. Cheese? I'm not really sure. I do think that between, let's call it May 1st, when the stay-at-home's lifted, assuming that it is lifted, that from May 1st, really throughout all of the summer months, there's going to be a level of anxiety, paranoia, uncertainty about where do I go, can I bring my kids? Are there certain places I feel more safe than others? I think there's going to be kind of a test and learn, and people are just going to have to start, putting their toe in to see what level of comfort there is. If and when, another uptick in the curve spikes, as long as we continue to see cases go down, deaths go down, I think the level of consumer confidence will continue to go up. I'm an optimist by, just am. I think by, early fall, call it, Labor Day, that you will start to see, an uptick of consumer confidence. Will there be more people out, trading at different retail outlets?
I've got a question here from Lance Cousins. Do you eventually expect to have a point of sale system, like a kiosk maybe for customers, similar to maybe McDonald's and Panera? Is that the future for Belle Tire? Have you looked at leveraging technology in that respect, or how do you think you could use tech?
Yeah, I think that we can use tech in ways. I don't really see a self-service kiosk kind of in the near future for Belle. And the reason being, just going back to what I was saying earlier, is our greatest asset is our people. Not because they can punch keys on the keyboard, but they're there to diagnose the vehicle. They're there to help prioritize the different needs and wants that our customers need for the vehicle. I mean, most people don't spend a lot of time throughout their day, trying to research and understand tires and automotive repair. It's a very low frequency purchase. It's a high dollar purchase. And just that alone, it's a grudge. People don't buy tires because they want to, because they have to. It's a good business to be in, but it's also something that, most people don't continue to educate themselves on. And so we look at our people as really being those advisors in owning the decision making with the customers with them. We want to educate our customers. We want to make sure they're able to make the best purchase decision based on information that we can give them. And going into the route of a self-service kiosk, I think you lose that humanity. You lose that personal touch. I do think there is ways in terms of technology that can help the decision making, which we have that in place already. So, currently at all of our stores, we have ways to where we can educate customers using our screen that we have. So I think we're still working through how we can work with a customer side by side while still practicing the 6-foot social distancing measures. But for us, it's all about having our people educate, the customers coming in on what's going to be best for them by, really qualifying the customer, understanding their needs and wants, understanding what's going on. Because once you really are able to do that, then you're going to make the best recommendation and educate the customer in a way that's going to make them feel appreciated and excited. And I think that's why we've had the luxury of being in business for almost 100 years now with 121 locations. I think we do it well. We can always get better, but it's that approach and how we look at our customers rather than a number, but it's real people that are there for a need and wanting them back on the road.
Since you've been servicing your customers in this essential space, through this new normal that we're living in, there are several retailers that are watching this live and probably will watch this on YouTube later. What advice would you give to them when the economy opens back up? They've not interfaced with their customers maybe at this time. Maybe they're not considered essential. So being that you've operated through this and seen a lot of the fears that your customers have, what advice would you have for other retailers once we get the economy ramped up and they get back into business?
So as retailers start to open, we've all experienced as consumers ourselves, whether we go into grocery stores, gas stations, we've all kind of seen kind of the new norm and how people are starting to trade and shop. If I'm assuming all retailers are going to say, hey, my greatest assets are people. my advice to, retailers out there is listen to your people. Listen to the people that are actually working the front lines. It's easy to get caught up on, hey, business is down. I got to make cuts. I got to, survive. I got to maintain cash. But listen to the people that are fighting the fight, and don't try to make decisions just sitting at a desk looking at spreadsheets. Go out and talk to the team, ask questions, talk to your customers. What is it that customers want? What is it that the team's feeling and seeing? Consumers right now, I believe they want to see businesses that are making efforts to protect not only them, but more importantly, their team, their employees. And the solutions don't need to be perfect and polished and all together, but it's okay that it can be a little clunky, but listen to the team, listen to the people that work in your front lines, because guess what? None of us singularly have all of the answers. Going into this, Derek, if you asked me a month ago, hey, how's Belle Tire going to, attack COVID-19? It's like, I'm not sure. Let's try to figure it out. Here are some kind of best guesses. Here are ways that, logically make sense. We do that from a protective standpoint, but you got to be fluid. You got to be nimble enough to keep changing. And it's okay to, make a decision one day and then, evolve it from, next week or 2 weeks, because this is a very fluid situation that we're in. There isn't a one size fits all solution. It isn't, hey, I did this, therefore I'm done. Retailers, continue to watch, listen to your customers, listen to your people, and do it with humility, because that's the way to where employees are going to say, yeah, you know what, the company, the boss, whomever cares about my well-being, cares about my safety. And doing that, they're going to provide a phenomenal service to the customers coming in. And those customers are going to come in, I think, are going to be way more loyal to businesses that are trying to keep customer experience still up, but also protect customers coming in and protecting the employees at the same time. So listen to the people, do it with humility, be fluid in the decision-making process, and really be nimble. I mean, that's the advice I'd give to myself 45 days ago. And I give it to all the retailers out listening right now.
Don, thank you so much for that feedback and advice. It's been fantastic to have you on. Wish you and your family continued health and to stay safe. And appreciate everything. And we look forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks, Derek. Appreciate you having me.
Talk to you soon. Thank you. Our next guest is Matthew Sharrak. He's the president of Midwest Mobility Solutions with 80 locations and more than 400 team members in Michigan and throughout the Midwest. I'll start here with essential services, Matt. What has been the biggest challenge for you and your team thus far?
So, Derek, thanks for having me, and I appreciate everybody getting on. I think this is going to be very valuable for a bunch of different businesses and individuals. So, as far as probably our biggest challenge of being essential is really it's finding folks that want to work and want to still be there at the store. It's not really easy dealing with customers, face to face. We're essential in the fact that people need to communicate, and it's not just phones. We're there to get people connected with internet at their home. Obviously, through platforms like this, and people need phones working. So finding a balance of, hey, you know what, we have 80 locations. Do all 80 locations need to be open right now, even though we're essential? We didn't do that. We actually went down to about half of our locations. And then double clicking into that is finding the employees that want to work, that can work. There's a lot of limitations here. We have a pretty young workforce. So, everybody, even if they did get the disease, we're probably not going to get the big health problems that COVID-19 would present, but they might live with their parents, or they might live with their grandparents. Some people are, watching their kids now because they don't have great childcare at home. So really quickly, we had to identify, who wants to be there, and we let people that want to stay home stay home. After that, we had to kind of figure out what we're going to do. What's the plan going forward? There's a lot of, obviously, there's a lot of problems out there with, logistics of what stores are we going to keep open, what hours are we going to stay open. So that was probably the biggest thing, is just figuring out who wants to work, who can work, and then going from there. That was definitely our biggest issue.
Yeah, being that you're in the technology space with a partner like AT&T, how have you been leveraging Zoom technology and other resources to effectively communicate confidence with your team on a daily basis? Like, what are you doing? You guys have a great corporate culture, and what are you doing to talk to your team on a daily?
I mean, so we've been using Zoom well before this for the last few years for everything from training to our weekly and biweekly conference calls. Really quickly when this happened, March 13th, I remember just actually how I felt. I felt, pretty confused, pretty scared. I didn't know what was going on. So very quickly, we got all of our leadership on a call. So store managers, district managers, and really every single one of our leaders. And I let them know, hey, listen, we're not sure exactly what's going on, but I want to let you guys know that we're going to do whatever we can to in your best interest. You're the most important thing, like Don and Joey were saying, our employees are our biggest asset. So we wanted to let everybody know we're going to do everything with your best interest first. I mean, we want to make sure that your safety's there. We want to make sure that you can provide for your family. So although I don't know what's going on, we're going to figure this out, and we're going to have your best interest first, and then we'll do what's right for the business after. And I think that was really big. I got a lot of calls from different employees that I haven't even, I've never spoke to before. And I think that was probably, one of the biggest things that we did. And then we just kept communication open after that. As soon as we found out something, as soon as we figured out what we're going to do next, we quickly communicated using Zoom. So, I mean, definitely a huge part of it. And that communication, open communication with your staff, whether they're laid off or still working for you, is very important.
That's great advice. Let's go to your retail stores and what happens when a customer comes to visit you today. What are some of the protocols that you've adapted? Being that 40 of your stores are currently open, so you've been servicing customers for the last 45 days. What are the protocols that you've implemented, and what do you think has been effective and been helpful, and more importantly, been well received by your customers?
I mean, really quickly, we needed to get some personal protection equipment for our employees. So everything from gloves to face masks. As soon as we were able to secure face masks, we got those, and we have even some more coming. That was very important. And then right away, as the CDC started changing guidelines, we started doing different things. At first, it was no more than 10 people at a store at one time. And then we quickly went to a 1-to-1 ratio, basically rep to customer. So for instance, a store that might have had 4 or 5 people waiting, we just said, hey, wait out inside in your car. We'll give you a call when you could come in, when we had a 1-to-1 rep to customer ratio. Short after that, we came up with a curbside service where customers don't even need to come to the store at all. They can either call in, or if they come out, we can even greet them at their car and find out what they need, service it inside the store, bring their phone directly to them. That way they don't have to, really be inside the store around anybody. It keeps our employees safe. It keeps the customers safe. And we've always had contactless payments. So we've always done mobile payments. We're stressing that. We went cash free recently, so we don't take cash payments at the store, but we help customers with a ton of different ways to actually make payments inside their store, via credit card or over the phone. AT&T has actually been huge in the fact that they're not charging late fees for the people that can only pay cash. They're not charging late fees. They're not charging disconnect fees. So that way, when this does open up and it relaxes a little bit, we can take that, and customers don't have to rush to figure out another solution to keep their communication open.
So leveraging tech as much as possible, curbside service. Is that something that you charge for, or is that something? I mean, I've heard some companies actually charging customers a fee to actually deliver a curbside good. Is that something you guys do, or?
Not at all. Not at all. That's something that we're offering, and it's to keep everybody safe. So we would absolutely we'd encourage it, not charge for it. And then to go further, like Joey was saying, Omnichannel is going to be very important to us. And right now we're not in an Omnichannel space. And in a month or two, we will totally be there. So you'll be able to buy online and pick up in one of our stores. We see that happening by June or July. mean, it was already going to happen. I just think it got accelerated by probably 3-4 months because of this. So, AT&T really stepped up and are unlocking the omnichannel potential for us very soon.
Being that you've been open as an essential services company, what advice would you have for other retailers that are listening in about what they can expect when the economy is back and they open their business back up? What are some of the, let's call it, shock and awe that they should expect in interacting with their customers moving forward post COVID-19?
So in the near future, I can even tell you, even though we are essential, it just didn't make sense. Even the stores that we have open right now, although they're essential, they're not profitable at all. And we did it because obviously we want to keep our core leaders there in place, as many as we could. And then obviously to service our customers. We have an obligation to service a lot of people and keep them connected in their work and in their own personal lives. So, we're open right now in limited hours. And then on May 1st, we're going to open most likely another 25% of our stores. So we'll be at about 75% operational May 1st. But what I recommend for anybody, whether essential or not, is do it in phases. So, if you have multiple locations, maybe open your core ones and see how they do. If you're going to open, maybe do it on a limited hours with limited employees. Although it's tempting to bring everybody back to work, which trust me, I'd love to do. I'd love to do that tomorrow. Is your business going to be able to handle it in 6 months or a year or 2 years from now? To build up your cash reserves as much as you can right now, because like Joey said, we don't know what the future is going to bring us. Like Don, I'm very optimistic. I think we're programmed to just be social and to deal with each other face to face. As great as this is, Derek, I love seeing you in person over breakfast.
Likewise.
Thank you. But I just think we are going to get back to it, but we don't know for sure. And we don't know what level of normal that looks like. So do it in phases, because you don't know what kind of cash flow restrictions you're going to have later on down the line. So every dollar you save now is probably going to help you down the line. And then if you can get back to full employment and your doors are swinging like crazy, great, bring everybody back. But I'd really recommend doing it in phases. So doing it by locations, doing it by key people first, doing it by the hours that you're open. Maybe you're only opening those peak hours where you're doing, that's the 20-80 rule. So really focus on, 20% is the most, 20% of your time that you're open is probably 80% of your revenue. Focus on opening in that 20% for sure for now, and then worry about the expanded hours and all the other things that are out there.
That's great advice. It's almost similar to what the president and the administration is proposing, opening up the country in phases, because you can't just turn a light back on. But I think it's really smart to consider opening up retail in phases and leveraging the busiest hours. I mean, that's really good advice. I hope our followers and viewers appreciate that. I do want to ask you a personal question. You've got a pregnant wife. You got 2 young kids at home. You're the head of the household. What does it take for you to have confidence to take your family out in the future? What do you need in order to have that sense of confidence?
Let's be clear. I got a pregnant wife. I'm not the head of the household right now. And I got my 2 sons. I'm probably actually 4th on that totem pole right now. My 2 sons and my wife call the shots. I just kind of hang out and work. So, honestly, Derek, it's a good question. If you watch the news, depending on what channel you watch, it can go either way. And with politics, that's okay. But when it's our health, that's a different story. I don't think we can necessarily trust the news. It's all about confidence. And, I'll say this. I don't know which way you think, whether we should stay shut down longer or open, but I think as a society, we're built for a lot of things. We're built to interact with each other. We're built for sickness. We're built for death. Are we built for just isolation like this? I don't know how long we can stay this course. I think we'll figure out the COVID-19 situation. I think our healthcare providers and our leaders will come up and figure out that situation out, because I just don't see us staying inside, not interacting with each other. I mean, we're social people. This is how we're all built. And it's scary what's out there. I realize the disease is scary, but I think it will get back to normal. I kind of agree with Don. I'm an optimist. I think by fall we'll start seeing more normal than not. I mean, I hope. I definitely hope. And obviously, we're going to be out there with my pregnant wife. She's at high risk. She's pretty nervous herself. So, we're going to kind of play it year by year. I'm going to look at what's happening in our retail stores. Are folks more comfortable? And then we'll see if that curve spikes up again. Then maybe we'll sit home for a little bit longer. But if it kind of stays flat, even with opening, then we're going to just have more confidence to be out there. And that's really what I'm going to look at.
I couldn't agree with you more on those two fronts. One, your wife is definitely the head of the household. So Janelle, if you're watching, I'm sorry about that. And number two, we have to be optimistic. Americans are a workforce. We're excited about working. We want to do so safely and follow the science, of course, as Joey alluded to earlier. But there's certainly some opportunities to open up the economy in certain sectors. And I think once we get safe enough, I think that on the retail side of things, I love your idea and advice about opening up slowly and in phases. That makes a tremendous amount of sense. Any final thoughts, advice, anything else that you want to share?
You know what? Biggest thing is your people. Just keep an open communication. Realize that the folks that are on the front line. So if you own any retail establishments, if you're in restaurants, I have a lot of friends that are in the restaurant business, in the gas station business, you name it. You know what? Just talk to your people. See what's keeping them up at night. Find out what's motivating them. If they are coming to work, great. Ask them, what's motivating you to come to work? See if you could do more of that. Your people are going to be your most important thing. If none of this was here, if we never had COVID-19, if your folks are not happy, you're not going to have customers, because they're not going to treat your customers right. Treat your people right. Do what's best for them. It will come back to your business. I can't stress that enough. Fortunately, I think I'll be fine either way. But I don't know if every single person that works for me is going to be fine. So my job as an owner is to make sure that they're going to be okay. And then eventually, hopefully it'll come back. And if not, what are you going to do? But we got to make sure that the people that are most vulnerable, the people that are out there breaking their back for you, should definitely be taken care of. And I think that's probably the most important thing.
Thank you so much for your time and for your thoughts. I hope you and your family stay healthy and stay safe. And we wish you all the best. We'll be right back. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it, everybody.
Hi, I'm Larry Burns, President and CEO of the Children's Foundation. In these unique and challenging times of the ongoing coronavirus, our mission to improve the health and wellness of children and families has become even more important. To keep communities safe and healthy, we have established a COVID-19 Emergency Relief Fund, allowing us to offer immediate support to community organizations who are now providing food, learning kits for homeschooling, virtual mental health services, and more. With your help, we can reach more children and more families. I invite you to consider making a gift today. It will directly impact some of the most vulnerable communities in need. And to learn more about the work supported by the COVID-19 Emergency Relief Fund, or to donate, please visit www.yourchildrensfoundation.org. Thank you for your continued support. We are in this together. Onward.
As AT&T's #1 partner, MMS prides itself on delivering a world-class experience to our clients and our communities to keep them connected where they live, work, and play. During these challenging times, we are here to serve you. We have many options to keep you connected to your loved ones by offering non-contact transactions and curbside service. Also, because we care about our healthcare professionals, we are offering 3 months of free service to doctors and nurses. Visit mmsmobile.com/stores to find an open location near you and call ahead to set up a curbside appointment.
Welcome back. Our final guest is Stephen Silverman of Friedman Real Estate. Stephen specializes in the acquisition and disposition of investment-grade real estate assets on behalf of his clients nationwide. Stephen, welcome to Impact.
Derek, thanks for having me.
Stephen, you just sold a Macy's, part of your pipeline. Tell us a little bit about that. I mean, we're hearing, retail obviously has been decimated. How have you been able to sell a Macy's? Give us a little bit more on that.
Yeah. So it was a portfolio. It was the first 2 as part of a portfolio of 10 that we're working on right now. I work with a number of self-storage developers nationwide on basically taking the former Kmart's, the former Sears, the former JCPenney's of the world, and then basically repurposing them for both storage and distribution use. So, the news that came out the other day where we sold 2 was the beginning tranche of really 10. And we are in the process now of really trying to get our hands on as many both single tenant and mall really focused properties that we can buy.
I want to ask, since you leverage technology better than I think most people I know, including myself for that matter, how have you been leveraging technology during shelter at home as a broker where traditionally, you're on site, you're taking clients through spaces, obviously, utilizing on a national platform, you have many assets to use. But today's day and age, I mean, it's very hand to hand. So give us some advice and tell us what you've been doing to help advance your business.
Yeah, great question. I would say our firm as a whole, my team as a whole, has really been utilizing technology, strongly for the past 5 years. We're investing heavily in that space, and we think that's the future of it. Of course, in our business, really from an advisory role, face-to-face contact and relationships is really what it's all about. But, in the situation that we're in, we're taking advantage of FaceTime. We're taking advantage of Zoom. We're staying in front of our clients. I'm working with a client right now on a property, 300,000 square foot warehouse in Kansas, that we did a 3-hour basically virtual tour. So the same way on the residential and commercial side, you're seeing transactions take place. Obviously, things have slowed down. There's no question about it. So, that's really the client side. And then, of course, on the listing side, my team does a significant amount of sales on the auction platform, such as 10X. Obviously, we're preferred or premium people when it comes to CoStar and LoopNet and everything else like that. So I think as you'll see, not just as what we're going through now, but into the future, technology and real estate are really going to go hand in hand. And I think we're going to see a lot of growth there.
Great. So in your opinion, what are the best sectors of commercial real estate and retail that you think can weather the storm? Joey sort of alluded to it earlier, but love to get your perspective on that.
Yeah, no, obviously, no one knows better than Joey. I mean, this is what he does every day from an acquisition standpoint. Obviously, Don and Matt from the retail perspective, being there, in the grid of it every day shows a really good perspective too. But, I think as Joey indicated, the everyday grocery type of retail isn't going anywhere. In terms of fast casual dining, the people or the companies that are well capitalized, I think are going to fare well into the future. Of course, the headlines we're seeing every day of the Macy's, the JCPenney's, the Neiman Marcus's of the world, in many ways, as that was an antiquated business model that was really operating on a lifeline for years now. This obviously, is probably that final punch. It's unfortunate, but, I saw an article today, and I know it's been out there. Amazon's in the process of hiring big. So is Costco. I think you're going to find a lot of jobs that leave the big box retail space are going to segue or pivot into, really the retailers that are at the forefront, who hopefully are paying higher wages and better benefits. So it may be a net win long term. Obviously, in the short term aspect right now, we're definitely feeling some pain. Everyone is, but I think from a retail perspective, if we can get through this, you're going to see some very promising results into the future.
I've got a question here from Jeff Gunsberg, and it's regarding how do you remain relevant and visible during a time in a crisis like this where everyone's sheltering at home? What are some of the assets you're using? And he asked a follow-up question was, What are you doing to be productive? Kind of hand in hand.
Yeah, I mean,
with fewer transactions.
You and I are talking on a regular basis. Jeff and I are talking on a regular basis. I think leveraging social media, right? So as we're all doing Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, the whole 9 yards, that's one way to stay relevant. I think this is a really good opportunity from a creative standpoint to take a step back and say, I'm usually grinding 12 hours a day in the office, right? This is more of a reflective period where I can decide what I want to do from a social media perspective. So I think that's a big aspect of it. And then more so is really from a brokerage standpoint, it's taking the broker hat off and really being an advisor and calling on clients, checking in with them, not pushing the hard sell, but really having the conversation, seeing what they're going through, what pain points they have, and really just, providing guidance and insight into what we're seeing in the market, and kind of from there, you got to stay relevant. You got to stay in front of people right now. If you're sitting back waiting for things to get better, I think you're missing out on long-term opportunities.
I got another follow-up question here. This one's from Lance Shania. Are you seeing businesses that are considering using bankruptcy on purpose to wipe a clean slate during the crisis so that they can position themselves, post-COVID?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've seen that before. I think we're probably going to see that potentially in the big box space. Potentially, let's just use retailer XYZ. So like
Neiman Marcus.
Yeah, let's use Neiman Marcus, right? Let's assume that, I don't know how many stores they have. Let's call it 300 stores, right? Let's assume they scale back to, they go through Chapter 11, they scale back, and they then operate 100 stores. That may be, that may be the lifeline they need. You take the 200 other stores and you repurpose those. Maybe Amazon buys them. Maybe my self-storage clients buy them. I think you're going to find, this gets repurposed. Multifamily's hot in terms of development into the future. So maybe they go into malls and stuff like that. So, I don't think, the last thing I think we all want to see is government assistance in big box retail, right? I don't think that's the best use of government dollars right now. But yeah, I think from a private equity standpoint and, Chapter 11 restructuring, it could be beneficial for both the, really three ways: for the companies, for the employees, and for the everyday customers.
I got time for one final question, Stephen. We'll have to have you back on a future episode, I promise.
Sure.
I want to ask you, what advice do you have for other aspiring brokers who someday want to be in a position of success that you're in today, as well as what advice do you have for the retail tenants that are watching right now? What advice do you have for them in order to help them weather the storm?
Yeah, great question. Twofold question. So I would say for any broker out there, it's really, to me, taking the broker hat off. And as I said before, to reiterate, is becoming an advisor, right? Your clients right now don't want to feel that they're being brokered. They want to know they have someone they can trust, that they can ask questions to. And you've got to look at this long term. If you're not making money in a deal now, 30, 60, 90 days, but that opportunity is there later this year, next year, if you're able to weather the storm and provide that guidance for your clients, you're going to do very good for yourself and for the community, which is great. And then to answer your second question real quickly in terms of what retailers can be doing, everyone feels for mom and pop retailers right now, right? Supporting small business is huge. You've got to be out there doing it. The large retailers of the world are well capitalized. They'll be fine. I'm not saying to turn your back on them, but if we don't take care of our small business right now, they are not going to be the ones to get out of this situation if we are not there for them. And so I think they need to be out there offering promos, utilizing social media, being in the community. And if we all come through this and really operate, hand in hand together, I think you'll find that maybe what happens at the end is we revert from that big box, big corporate retail perspective, and we really treat the small business that is really one of the major employer bases in this country with the credit and support that they deserve.
Couldn't agree more with you about small business. They are the backbone of our country. Stephen, thank you so very much for your time. We'll see you soon. And in closing, we're sensitive to all the lives that have been impacted, lost, and affected by COVID-19. We will get through this crisis together. We hope that you found some value out of this discussion. This is an 8-part series, and we're thankful to the generosity of our sponsors who are making this program entirely free to you. I would like to ask if you found this program of value to consider making a monetary contribution to the Children's Foundation COVID-19 Emergency Relief Fund. They're doing some fantastic work helping out our front lines and essential workers. We're really proud of them and honored to be a partner with them. The link to make that contribution is on our website. We hope you enjoyed the first episode about retail. Next week, it'll be all things related to the multifamily industry, apartment housing. We have some powerhouse speakers joining us next week. Same time, 11:30 on Wednesday. Appreciate your attention this morning, being a part of the conversation. Stay healthy, stay safe, and we'll see you next week on Impact.